be careful with these changes. Just because you lost doesn't mean you have to tear down the whole thing and start fresh. Get rid of the head coach, the quarterback. Start completely new.
Not every single loss that you see is a verdict on your team's negligence. Sometimes
the other team's just better.
5 things that I think 49ers fans need to take away from what we've seen so far in the playoffs. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready? Number 1, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers' 2 Super Bowl failures might have come at the hands of the greatest team of all time. Because if the Chiefs do this, if they win a 3rd Super Bowl in a row, they are the greatest team of all time. And Patrick Mahomes, in a short amount of seasons, has leapfrogged just about every single Hall of Fame quarterback that ever lived to be right behind or right in the same conversation with Tom Brady in terms of postseason just winning badass. If the Chiefs
I understand what you're saying, but you're not really saying it the way it should be said. I mean,
excuse me. You're better than me then, please, Larry.
Okay, I will. What you're saying is they're the greatest dynasty of all time. That's what you're saying. The greatest dynasty of all time. But this year's Chiefs are not the greatest team of all time. This year's team may cement their dynasty, but I would not put up, and neither would you, and nobody would, the 2025 Kansas City Chiefs as the greatest team that ever played.
No.
And each team's different year to year. So
they're 15-2.
No, I know. No, they're great. They're a great team. But I'm just saying, is the 2024-25 version of the Chiefs, this year's Chiefs, the greatest individual team of all time? No. Is this the greatest dynasty of all time? You have to give it to them because they're going to win 3 in a row and nobody's done it. So you have to give them that, even though I don't know that I would agree with that. I don't know that they're the greatest dynasty. But as far as what I do know is this year's Chiefs are not the greatest team of all time.
No, but if this year's Chiefs put the exclamation point on this 3 years run, the last 3 years of Kansas City Chiefs, greatest team, greatest dynasty, whatever word you want to put in there, it's going to be hard to knock them off the number 1.
But who is the greatest individual team of all time? If you had to say, I said greatest team of all time.
It's right here, Larry. I carry the plaque right here just to remind everyone. This is the measuring stick. This is the yardstick of excellence that every NFL team will be measured against of all time. The 1985 Chicago Bears are the greatest football team of all time. Full stop. Defense matters. Thank you. There you go.
They were the greatest defensive team of all time.
But who
was the greatest team of all time? It's if you ask NFL historians, they would probably say 75 Steelers, maybe 84 Niners.
Of the 5 Niner teams, which do you think would win if they could all somehow play each other in a tournament? Because I would say it's 89 or it's 94, right? I mean, that team was
94. Yeah, I'll take 89. I'd take 89. I mean, they got 3 of them: 84, 89, 94. But I would say I would go 89. But whatever. I'd say 89 Niners, 75 Steelers, maybe the Patriots one of those years. I'm just not sure which year.
85 Bears. It's a small handful of teams.
85 Bears were fully dominant in the Super Bowl. Unbelievable defense. There was an amazing run there. 84 Niners were amazing. 85 Bears were amazing. 86 Giants were amazing. 87 Redskins were amazing. To me, there was a 5-year run where you truly had just 4 or 5 of the best teams that ever walked the earth. And wherever good, the undefeated team is the Dolphins, but nobody thinks they're the best team.
Yeah, look at here. Steve is like, sorry, Damon. Very stupid statement. It's the Miami Dolphins is the only undefeated team in football.
No.
They played 15 games. What? No. Stop it.
Nobody. No, they weren't one of the best teams of all time. They were the undefeated
historian. Team. Yeah, not a single NFL historian, not a single student of the game would ever even include that team in the top 5 teams of all time. Yeah. Here comes number 2. Quarterbacks, who we all admit, even Larry and I, who are sitting here over on Team Purdy, quarterbacks who are better than Brock Purdy continue to play a lot worse than he does in big games. Anybody else notice that? Anybody? This is a hard sport. And Lamar Jackson is about to maybe have 3 more MVPs than Brock Purdy. Lamar Jackson is about to have one of the biggest MVP collections in NFL history if he really does win another one here, even though he just got sent home. Brock has 1 more playoff win on his body than Lamar, who is now 3-5 in the postseason. Number 3, the 49ers are going to have a last place schedule next year. Go ahead and look at that schedule. There are donkeys on there. When you start playing the W and L game, just looking at who they're playing, there's a lot more W's than L's coming up on next year's schedule for the 49ers. And let me just say that there's only one way that less resistance could appear in front of the 49ers than it does already on that schedule. And that's if Matthew Stafford retires, and he's contemplating it. The 49ers are winning 12 games next year. Bare minimum. The only acceptable win total should Matthew Stafford retire is we're going to start at 12 wins and do better from there. So just keep an eye on whether or not Matthew Stafford retires, because if he does, holy shit, an already wide open schedule becomes more wide open.
I'm not going to say any win total. I mean, the 49ers, won 6 games this year. They need about 12. They have about 12 needs. I have no idea who their starting receivers are going to be. There's probably going to be at least a half dozen of unforeseen cap casualties, and those are going to be good players. They're not going to be donkeys. You're gonna have to say goodbye to some good players. There's a very good chance of Fonga's leaving, Mooney's leaving, probably Leonard Floyd leaving, Malik Collins leaving. I mean, there's gonna be a bunch of guys who are leaving. Aaron Banks is gonna be gone. Jake Brendel could be gone. There's gonna be a lot of turnover here. So I can't say, even though I've looked at that schedule, and the schedule is really, really easy on the surface, but the 49ers have, we kept being told this year, oh, this game's easy, and it wasn't. That game's easy, and it wasn't. The Niners need to not look at their opponents, not look at the across the way, and just focus on themselves. They have huge building to do. Their offensive line probably needs 3 new starters. They need another receiver. They need they need 2 defensive tackles. Their starting defensive tackles are garbage. Their linebackers are too thin and too old, and their secondary is young. They don't have a free safety. They lack speed. I mean, they just have so many needs. I can't say what they're going to be next year. Well, I'm not going to say anything until I see them rebuild this thing, because if they step on their, trip on their dick in the draft and can't pick their nose, they're going to suck. Okay. And so it's not about like, oh, well, this was an aberration. No, it was not. And it's not about, oh, well, they just will play a bunch of easier teams. They have to get better and better players, because they had a good draft this year. They had 3 disaster drafts in a row. So something tells me that if they don't have if they don't have a great draft, if they have the kinds of drafts they had the 3 previous years, they will miss the playoffs again, and they will get further away from title contention than they are at in this moment. And they're not really close right now. So I think against they got a lot on their plate.
I agree with everything you just said. I also think they're at 8 wins just rolling out of bed against that schedule. Even a bad Niner team wins 8 games against that schedule. So number 4. On Sunday, the Eagles are going to be playing in their 8th title game since 2000. That is the most of any NFC team over that time. The 49ers have played in this 7 times, the Packers 6 times. 49ers fans who insist that these are the dark times, there's been an awful lot of light sprinkled on your dark times. Most franchises would gladly trade their all times for 49ers dark times. So there's that level of perspective. And then finally, in a source that I don't think you and I have ever turned to before, I saw it retweeted, and I want to give him full credit here, Larry. Rod Brooks tweeted, look, the Lions couldn't get back to the title game. The Eagles are trying to get back to the title game. The Packers are still trying to even reach the title game. And the Niners went to 3 straight and 4 of 5. Appreciate what you've got. And I agree.
Oh, wow.
I agree.
I'm sure that was met with a lot of pushback.
But you know what? Push back all you want. He's not wrong. He's not
No,
wrong.
I mean, no, I basically would agree with that sentiment. There's a lot of people who are like, that's loser talk and this and that. Here's the bottom line on this. It's okay to have high standards as long as you acknowledge that you have unrealistic and extremely high standards. But if you act like you have extremely high standards and nothing but ultimate elation, everything else will be greeted as failure. When you're in that mode, you're going to fail a lot, and there's going to be a lot of unhappiness because anything short of winning the championship is failure. The Niners have been a dynasty in our lifetime.
Black season right here. No rings to show for it, so who cares?
Yeah, that's so stupid. I hate to say that, but you're so stupid.
Terrible way to watch sports.
Well, no, man, it's like, there's different levels. I mean, sometimes you're gonna win, sometimes you're gonna lose. There's a reason that cities that have hundreds of millions of dollars in cost overruns still throw $1 million parades when you win championships, because it's rare. And it's really rare. It's really hard to do. And, it's like, I get it. You don't want to be satisfied with anything but a championship. And I get it. We all got a chance to enjoy 5 titles, and the young side of the Niner audience has yet to ever enjoy the ultimate elation of a Super Bowl parade. But that's what's going to make it all the sweeter when it happens. It's really, really, really hard to do. Here's the thing. I lived through it. The Niners won in 81. They didn't make the playoffs in 82. They lost the conference championship game in 83. They won in 84. They got destroyed in the playoffs in 85. They got destroyed in the playoffs in 86. They were the number 1 seed in 87, and they got bounced at home by the Vikings. They won it all in 88. They won it all in 89. Then they lost in 90 in the NFC Championship game in one of the most bitter defeats of all time. And they lost to Green Bay in 91. And they lost to Dallas in 92 despite having home field and having the best team in football. And they lost to the Cowboys again in 93. And they lost again in 95. And they lost again in 96 and 97. And, do you see all the years? Were they losers? I guess in those years.
Reported as that. Absolutely. I can think of one guy who would have demanded Bill Walsh be fired.
They're not losers. It's just really hard to do. It's really hard to win. It's really, really, really hard to win. And you can, and here's the other thing too. There's a great article, and I think I referenced it last week to you, but everybody should go on to The Athletic and read Jeff Howe. And it was an article about comparing the Chiefs today to the Patriots of yesteryear. And really the crux of it is that all these teams that got close to Tom Brady and the Patriots, when they didn't win, they tore their whole thing down and started anew. And it set them back. And then the Patriots' advantage kept getting greater and greater as time went on because the Patriots had continuity and all these other teams kept tearing it down. Well, it's happening again with Kansas City. The Niners lost to Kansas City. All of a sudden, it's like Jimmy G's not good enough. We have to have Trey Lance. So they forced the Trey Lance move. It wound up being a huge mistake. It set them back. The Cleveland almost beat Kansas City in the playoffs a couple years ago. Didn't happen. They got rid of Baker Mayfield. They traded for Deshaun Watson. It winds up being the worst trade in the history of the NFL. They've set their franchise back because of it. So I'm not saying don't have high standards, have high standards. And I'm not saying don't react to a loss, do react to a loss and be hell-bent to get back. But don't, every time you lose to a Kansas City and a Mahomes, you can't question your existence. Get rid of the head coach, the quarterback, start completely new. Why? Because Kansas City's going to stay with Andy Reid, Dave Taub, Steve Spagnuolo, Chris Jones, and Patrick Mahomes. And they're going to have continuity. And if you keep, the Niners are going to have a new OC, a new DC, and a new special teams coordinator. So how are the 49ers with 3 brand new coordinators going to be more efficient than the Kansas City Chiefs with an existing coach, an existing quarterback, and 3 of the best coordinators in the game that they've had continuity with? So it's like, be careful with these changes. You know, just because you lost doesn't mean you have to tear down the whole thing and start fresh, Larry, because it's going to take time for it all to come together. Cohesion doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time.
Not every single loss that you see is a verdict on your team's negligence. You know, I mean, sometimes the other team's just better. Sometimes really good coaches lose. Sometimes really good players. Sometimes really good defenses. Sometimes really good teams lose. Ask the Baltimore Ravens. That's what happens. You know, Lamar, the big question about Lamar is, can Lamar produce the game-winning touchdown drive when the game is on the line? Well, that guy produced the about to maybe tie this game drive at the end of a game, and then because Mark Andrews, who is a great player, didn't catch a ball that was put in his belly, Lamar has to go forward with the can't win in the postseason. He's probably about to win a 3rd MVP, and that's going to be a little awkward knowing that he got bounced again. But he's extraordinary. Like, Lamar Jackson's an extraordinary football player, but he's yet to cross it off. You know, Peyton Manning was an extraordinary quarterback before he got to win his Super Bowls. It's a grind, it's a process, and it ain't easy. And to assume it should be easy for your team or easier for your team because you're wearing 49ers uniforms is just nuts. It's tough out there. It's really
hard, man. Yeah, it's really hard.
Thanks for watching. Tune into the Damon Bruce Show live on YouTube every weekday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific.